Welcome to the Black Herstory Channel. This is what I like to call Queens for the Queens series. We will be highlighting various royalty throughout history. Queen Nzinga, also known as Nzinga Mbande, was queen of the Mbandu kingdoms of Ndogo and Matamba, located in present-day northern Angola. Born into the ruling family of Ndogo, Nzinga received military and political training as a child, and she demonstrated an aptitude for diffusing political crises as an ambassador to the Portuguese Empire. When Nzinga was growing up, the Portuguese were trying to invade her country and take her people as slaves. She was a member of the Jaga people who lived in an area of Africa called Ndogo, now known as Angola. Nzinga's brother, Angola, the king of Ndogo, fought off the Portuguese invasion for many years, but it wasn't until he died and Nzinga became queen that the Portuguese faced their most cunning rival.
Good.
Nzinga became famous for her bravery, intelligence, and determination to keep her people free. During her brother's reign, Nzinga was sent to represent him at a peace conference with a Portuguese governor. When the governor refused to give Nzinga a chair, she defied him and his lack of manners by sitting on the back of one of her attendants. What a statement she made! She demanded respect. Before we get into her political and military legacy, I'd like to revisit her early years because it is a fascinating story. Nzinga was born into the royal family of Ndogo in Central West Africa around 1583. According to legend, the birth process had been very difficult for her mother. Nzinga actually received her name because the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck. In her language, the verb kujinga means to twist or turn, and as you see, Nzinga is a derivative of that. It was said to be an indication that the person who has this characteristic would grow to become a powerful and proud person. When she was 10 years old, her father became king of Ndogo. As a child, Nzinga was greatly favored by her father. Since she was not considered to be an heir to the throne like her brothers, she was not seen as a direct competition, so the king could freely lavish attention upon her. She received military training and was trained to fight alongside her father as a warrior. She participated in many official and governance duties alongside her father, including legal councils, war councils, and important rituals. Furthermore, Nzinga was taught by visiting Portuguese missionaries to read and write in Portuguese, which would later serve to her advantage. Something of note is that in 1670, Queen Nzinga's father passed away, and her brother, Ngola Mbandi, came into power. As the new king, her brother felt paranoid that one day Nzinga's only son, a baby boy, would plot to have him assassinated. So instead, he ordered her son killed and then forcibly had Nzinga sterilized, which ensured she would never have a child again. Perhaps fearing for her life, Nzinga fled to the kingdom of Matamba, where she stayed until her brother asked for her to return to be his ambassador to the Portuguese in 1621. So that was about a 4-year span where she was away from her kingdom. Her brother was failing to defeat the Portuguese and needed Nzinga's help to negotiate the treaty. She was the best fit for the job as she spoke fluent Portuguese. In 1622, Nzinga arrived in Luanda. While Ndogo leaders typically met the Portuguese in Western clothing, she chose to wear opulent, traditional clothing of the Ndogo people in order to display that their culture was not inferior. As mentioned previously, The story goes that when Nzinga arrived, there were chairs for the Portuguese individuals and only a mat provided for her. This type of behavior from the Portuguese was common. It was their way of displaying a subordinate status, a status reserved for conquered Africans. Nzinga's soldier formed himself to be a chair for her while she spoke to the governor face to face. Again, a great example of how she demanded respect. Nzinga was a fierce negotiator who also made sure to flatter the Portuguese, according to this story. She was able to reach an agreement with the Portuguese, which entailed the withdrawal of Portuguese troops from Indogo and recognition of its sovereignty or independence. She was also able to ensure that the Indogo did not need to pay tributes. She did this by successfully arguing that the kingdom was an independent one rather than a vassal or conquered state. Interestingly, in return, she agreed to open trade routes to the Portuguese, as well as study Christianity and become baptized. Again, in 1624, after her brother passed away from a mysterious cause, Nzinga took the throne as queen. Her first official act as queen was to demand that the Portuguese put the new peace treaty into effect, or she would declare war. The Portuguese governor tried to throw Nzinga out of her country. The result was war. Queen Nzinga implemented guerrilla warfare tactics and had begun to order trenches to be made around her island, created hidden caves, and stocked up on supplies to prepare her people for a potential long-standing siege. She also made an unusual decree, establishing her kingdom as a safe haven for runaway slaves seeking refuge from the European colonists. Queen Nzinga fought the Portuguese for 30 years. She even created false alliances with neighboring kingdoms, expanding her reign farther and farther even as she got older. Using her knowledge of the Europeans, their customs, and their religions, Queen Nzinga was able to form powerful alliances, particularly with the Dutch, who wanted to end Portuguese control over the slave trade in Africa. Being the shrewd and astute leader that she was, Queen Nzinga was not only able to keep her country free from European control, she also tried to expand her kingdom as well. Queen Nzinga declared that all slaves who could reach Angola would be free. After she died in 1663 at the age of 81, her country finally fell into the hands of the Portuguese. Yet, even today, Queen Nzinga is an inspiring symbol of African resistance to the white European colonization and domination. Queen Nzinga, we salute you today and every day. Thank you for making Black history. Thank you for watching. And please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And remember, thou art rich, and we will always uplift you, sis, here at the Black Herstory channel.